Steve?
Yes, sir.
Clark? Good evening, everybody. Madam Clerk? Okay, we're up to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Up first for discussion is an ordinance on the agenda regarding the vacation of Caruso Street, no relation to me. There were some issues with that.
Yeah, I can speak to it if you want.
Go ahead, thank you.
Crusoe Street is by the intersection of Route 80, where we have all that, all the traffic right by the 7-Eleven there when you get on Route 80. And Caruso Street is a street that was never built upon, very close to there. You can't really get to it from there, you sort of have to go around. I'm not sure the name of the street, but it was not serving any municipal purpose. It was just sort of run down and not accomplishing anything. So we decided to put it back on the tax rolls back in 2021 by vacating the street. The statute requires that the street vacation be recorded by the Bergen County Clerk's office within a certain period of time. But it did not happen within that period of time, even though we dropped it off and delivered it to them on time, but it was during COVID. It was very difficult to get anything done at the county. And so a legal issue has come up regarding the validity of that vacation. So all we're doing is we're reaffirming it, and we will re-record it in Bergen County now that they're back to normal operations within the time frame required by the statute. So there's no question regarding the propriety of the vacation of the street. So it's really just a technical issue. You've already done it. It's just we're redoing it because of this recording issue at the Bergen County Clerk's office.
Right. Okay. Next?
Next up is, you guys everybody should have received some photos of the ID signs or variable message boards that we need to put at Johnson Park for the sports complex. So if you guys could look at those and pick one out for me so that I can get it to the engineers for that complex. Last but not least, pull up Chris Wheaton, our city engineer, regarding the CSO stormwater and parks update.
Everybody?
Evening.
Thank you, Frank. Good evening, everybody. Okay, so we'll start with our major projects status overview. I think it went off again, Frank. Check, check, check. Thank you. So just running through the changes on our major projects status overview. The items in darker blue indicate changes from the last meeting. The Atlantic Street garage has been somewhat delayed due to weather. They are working on waterproofing the decks, and that requires dry weather, and so that's been mildly delayed. The Main Street streetscape, as we've discussed in the past, is awaiting the tree grates to be delivered, to be completed, and those are now expected at the end of this week, so we expect to be wrapping up that project at the end of this month, as well as the Atlantic Street garage, wrapping up at the end of this month. Summit Ave and the 2022 resurfacing program were postponed as we had conflicts with PSE&G work that was going on in the roadway, so we were waiting for that work to complete, which has been completed, and the final paving to wrap up those projects is scheduled for October. The Voorhees pump station replacement, This is not, I guess this one really shouldn't be dark blue, but, it's the same completion date, I believe, as last time. We're now looking at September at this time. For the city's, CSO, or combined sewer system separation projects, the Clay Street contract number 2, is is substantially complete. We just have punch list items remaining for that project, and we're working through those. That project is essentially complete. For the Clay Street sewer separation contract number 3, we did complete the 3-pipe crossing under New Jersey Transit Rail. The contractor has installed the chambers east and west side of the railroad in Railroad Avenue. They have completed just about all the piping that's necessary. We are now waiting for Veolia to complete their, some water main work that they needed to wait until our project, was installed. So Veolia will be working, about the next 3 weeks, and then we'll, finish up, the site work and completion of that project. Railroad Ave East and West is now open as of today. Voorhees Lane Sanitary Pump Station is installed. We had a startup today that was scheduled. We determined that we have a voltage issue. The main shutoff for the pump station was labeled with a voltage that is not coming to the station, so we need to install a step-down transformer for that project, and it should be a small change, and we're working through that right now. The FEMA Post-Ida Flood Mitigation Grant is a project that we're undertaking to mitigate floods in the southern portion of the city. We are doing initial base mapping and information gathering with closed circuit television at this time. We're about about a third of the way through the physical linear footage of the pipe that we want to inspect. There are 2 crews working when possible, and we're gaining a lot of really important information about the piping system, that will assist in our design of the improvements that are planned to mitigate flooding in that area. For our parks projects, we have surcharged the Johnson Park site with about 1,500 truckloads of soil in preparation for the installation of the superstructure there, of the field house or sports facility structure. Carver Park, the award for the basketball courts is in progress this evening, I believe. So with that in hand, we will be issuing notice to proceed and expect to be starting that project later this month or possibly early October. Stuyde Park, we are still waiting for furniture and other punch list item closeout. We've been working with the contractor as best we can to expedite their completion of that project, and we expect the furniture to be delivered later this month. For Fashini Park, we are proceeding with 60% design for the former fields 8, 9, and 10, which are the 3 fields furthest to the southeast in that park. So those ball fields are planned to be turfed and other amenities installed as part of that project. Our paving projects, I think I just gave you the update on that with the schedule overview. Things are looking good. We'll be completing these projects in October. There have been some coordination issues at times that have been brought to the attention of our office, and those are quite often attributed to weather delays, but we'll take a look and see whether there's means for us to improve the notification that residents get with the schedule for shutdown and closures of streets due to paving, as we know that is an inconvenience for the residents. The Atlantic Street Garage, the deck waterproofing was finished over this weekend. The entrance to, the new entrance on Atlantic Street is closed for the time being until we get the signs. But that should be happening in the next couple of weeks, and this project will be completed later this month. For the Main Street Streetscape project, the tree grates, as I said before, will be delivered at the end of this week, and that'll be the finish of that project, less any maintenance issues that do arise. So we're keeping an eye on the trees and watering those that look like they need it, and we'll replace anything that the contractor will replace anything that we identify isn't surviving. I have a new slide here on the city's emergency repairs. We are preparing bid documents to have emergency contractors on standby. This will be a more efficient operation for procurement for the city to have contractor on standby, and allow us to more readily address issues as they arise. So this is just a summary of about approximately 6 emergency repairs that we've had so far this year. There is a larger repair planned at the intersection of State and Salem Street, and we will be preparing bid documents for that. And lastly, the other construction projects that we're working on right now are the renovation of the John Earl Building for city offices, and as well as the roofing project for 3 city buildings. And we're having a kickoff for this project later this week. And with that, I will entertain any questions that anybody may have.
No, well, good, Chris, thank you for your opinion. Appreciate it.
That's all I have.
That's it. Okay, with that, I need a motion to open to the public, please.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember Von Rudenberg is absent, Deputy Mayor Canestrino is absent, Councilmember Pataglia,
Yes.
Councilmember Carroll,
Yep.
Mayor LaBrus.
Here. All right, Steve, before we go forward, do you want me to just mention the 125?
No, we'll see if someone comes up and speaks to it, we'll respond, we'll let people speak and then we'll respond.
All right. So with that, anybody from the public who would like to speak, please come forward, give your name to the clerk, and you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Martin Smith, Prospect Avenue. For the past 5 months, I've been asking the same question, and that is, why haven't we scheduled a construction date for the crosswalk on Prospect and Atlantic? Mr. Caruso has said on each of those occasions, not yet. So I'm wondering if tonight, that same question would have the same answer. If it does, I'm wondering why there is a delay in installing this crosswalk so we could complete the project for Prospect Avenue in regard to crosswalks.
Chris, can you comment on that?
We are awarding that,
Contract? The consultant is being awarded that project tonight, Mr. Smith. The funding was put in place, required a bond. It's my understanding that occurred last meeting.
and that allowed us now to act on the consultant's, design proposal to design that project. So we're not ready for construction yet, but we are, embarking on design.
I was under the impression that the original funding for this project had not been exhausted and that there was money left to complete the project as originally scheduled for 3 intersections on Prospect Avenue.
I'm afraid I can't answer that question.
The funding, the funding is available now. Okay, we've got the funding, now we're moving forward, so I'm not gonna tell you, not yet. What I'm gonna tell you is we are moving forward now with the design, and construction will follow after that.
Okay, my next
So,
question, thanks. My next question refers to Summit Avenue. Is Summit Avenue strictly a county jurisdictional street, or is there part of Summit Avenue that comes under city jurisdiction?
It's both. There's certain section of Summit Avenue is county, and certain sections of Summit Avenue is, it belongs to the city.
What section belongs to the city? Could you tell me that?
Forsake the Spring Valley.
From which?
Forsake the Spring Valley and down to Coles.
Spring Valley Avenue down to,
The county is from Essex Street to Passaic Street.
down to Essex Street.
That's
So
it.
if
The
that,
Passaic is the county, Passaic all the way down to Coles, past Spring Valley, that belongs to the city.
south of Passaic
South of Passaic,
is city?
South of Passaic is
Correct.
county.
County, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's county. And north of Passaic is city. Okay. So my question is, if that area of Summit is city, why is the speed limit 35 miles an hour when all city streets are supposed to be set at 25?
I'm sure that it is though.
I'd have to look at that, but typically, it's not automatic that a street would be set at 25, that's the minimum. If there is no posted speed limit, then it's 25 miles per hour. If that's set to 35, I'd have to research why it was set to 35.
Okay, thank you.
Next person from the public, please.
Hi, my name is Christina Bauer and I live at 161 Davis Avenue. I'm here with regards to 125 Willow Avenue and the CSLR, the cooperative.
Can you speak to the microphone a little better so they can hear you? Just pull it down a little bit. Great, thank you.
I'm here regarding the 125 Avenue. Okay. I believe I speak on not just myself, but many residents in the community and the immediate vicinity that were very uncomfortable and concerned about this residence. For one, they came in very deceitfully initially, and while they were fined, it's probably pocket change considering the monies that they have invested in the facility. With that said, the lack of respect for the law, for Hackensack City, and for the state shows their lack of respect for New Jersey law in general, and I'm not confident that they are going to run this facility properly, just based on the information that we have. With that said, I also understand that while these homes are beneficial to some people, it still arises many major concerns, okay? Because a home house, a sober house or a halfway house is only as strong and secure and safe as the people that run it. I've also spoken with Mr. Raywood, and he did assure me that if they do follow the necessary steps to attain a license, he's gonna give it to them. And he also made it clear that while I think the city, I spoke to someone in the city department, and they said that they were concerned that they wouldn't have anything to do or say in the event that the state took over, and that's not true. I did find out that while the city is not able to, say, go into the home and see what's going on inside the home, they can certainly force that home and residents to adhere to the city codes, city zones, street parking, commercial vehicles, all that. So I hope that we are very diligent on that. I also have some information with regard to the home. For example, a mortgage, for example, is not, in order to have one, you need to be part of, that has to be your principal residence for at least 1 year. And I can furnish this information to you. I can send you copies if you'd like. And that's really it, so.
Yeah, well, any information, yourself or anybody else that's gonna speak to 125 Willow, that has any information pertaining, and I know a lot of you were asked to write letters. I don't know if that's happened. It's very important to get these letters. That's probably the most important thing, is to get these letters down to DCA. But I'm gonna let our city attorney speak to this.
So how many of you are here about 125 Willow? So really a lot of people. So,
Well, there are more of coming at 8 o'clock, there's gonna
Alright.
be more at 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
sorry?
More coming at 8.
There's more
Yeah.
coming at 8.
So, and I mean, and we can certainly repeat this later on, but you know, everybody understands because I've been working with Bridget McLaughlin, who I think has reached out to many of you with concerns when this issue came up, and there was a letter that went out that I worked with Bridget on that some of you may have seen. But it's important for everyone to understand, and I think you've explained the situation quite well, which is that an application to operate a CSLR, a cooperative sober living residence, is not your usual land use application that goes before our local land use boards for approval. Whether or not it is ultimately approved is determined by a state agency, the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. And as you represented, you know, this license application is pending right now. And I will make clear that the city has expressed to the DCA, you mentioned Mr. Raywood, Bernard Raywood is the contact person at the DCA who we've been dealing with there. And we've made clear, you know, our concerns. And from the city's position, you know, whether or not a CSLR operates is something that the DCA will decide. But you're 100% right that we have the right to ensure that if one is going to be licensed here, that they are going to operate responsibly. And what happened is, this application came in April. We were not notified of it until July. DCA cannot explain why that happened. The letter of notification was dated in April. We did not receive it till July 10th. During that period of time, many of you were complaining that there were unusual activities at the home. There were commercial vehicles being parked there. There were people coming in and out, and there was a lot of concern. Was there an unlicensed boarding home being operated on the property? Our zoning official went to the home and was told something completely different, was lied to, quite frankly, about what was going on at that property. And only when we got this letter did we realize what was happening. And at that point, that same day, we reached out to DCA, to Mr. Raywood, and we said, this is unacceptable, all these things are happening, you better do something about it. And they did go down and find that this property was operating illegally as an unlicensed CSLR. They imposed the fine. And we expressed to DCA how concerned we were that they were behaving in this manner, right? If you're going to come to the community, you should be forthright about it. You should tell us what you're doing, and you should operate in a responsible manner. And that was our concern that we expressed, you know, to the DCA. And Mr. Raywood was very receptive about it. As I said, he sent an inspector down right away. You know, found that there were improper operations going on, and so we've made our concerns clear. And we also said, what can the community do if they have similar concerns? And they were he was the one who said, well, if you send us your concerns, we'll put them in the case file, we'll consider them at the time that licensure has been approved. And that's why we asked all of you if you do have these concerns. And we've heard from people who support a CSLR, and I've told them the same thing. Hey, if you feel positively towards this, talk to Mr. Raywood. You know, whatever it is, however the community feels, everything should be in the file so that when they make this decision, they have all the information in the record. But, you know, again, we're still looking at the legal issues involved. If you have information that, you know, we're not necessarily familiar with, this is a fairly new program. There's not a lot out there on it. we're happy to look at it as we consider our options going forward. But it does seem to us that if the state feels that they meet the qualifications to open this facility, our ability to say, no, we don't think it should be there is limited. But if it does get approved, exactly as you said, that does not mean that they can violate our noise ordinances, that they can operate in an irresponsible manner. And we will make every effort to ensure that if this facility is allowed to operate, that it does so in compliance with all of our codes and regulations and ordinances. And we will not hesitate to let the DCA know if we think that irresponsible activity is going on. And in that regard, you can be helpful to that, right? We have been assured that after they were found to be operating improperly, that they stopped doing that. They have represented that there are no tenants there as we speak right now. They are not in violation of anything as we speak. And so, we're not going to be coming in heavy-handed towards the property. That's not what we're here to do. What we're here to do is make sure that whatever happens, the law is followed. And so if you see problems, concerns, you should bring them to our attention through the city manager, through our zoning official, or anybody else you see fit, and we will address them. And as I said, DCA is well on notice that they operate in an irresponsible manner. Maybe they can clean up their operation and they'll get approved and they'll operate in a manner where no one hears from them again. That would be certainly, if they are approved, what we would all hope for. But if not, the city is able and will act to the extent it can, operating within the law. So again, if you have any concerns and you have not submitted your concerns to the DCA, I can give you that contact information, though I think you may already be familiar with it. So, like you said, we're all concerned about this because of what happened, not because the fact that they filed an application to operate. If they have the legal right to do it, they have the legal right to do it, but they can't operate in a manner that they have in the past. That is completely unacceptable and inappropriate. Everybody feels that way in the city. I'm personally offended that they were not truthful with us when we came to them in good faith trying to find out what was happening. And so, they, from our perspective, have a burden to meet before our confidence in them is reassured. But that's really all we can do at this point. So I hope you understand the process, our personal frustrations with what's happened, but as I said, our role in this seems to be fairly limited.
I do have one more question if I can.
Sure.
So I understand because we're allowed to enforce zoning laws and rules and regulations, this CSLR situation falls under the category in following the rules for boarding and rooming houses. Is that residential area zoned for a boarding or a rooming house?
That is not exactly the way that the CSLR program works. So, and again, the legal status of CSLRs is a bit unclear, right? CSLRs were created by regulation, not by statute. They were created by DCA regulation. There is some zoning law that suggests that facilities such as this are considered permitted uses in a residential zone when other boarding houses would not be. And so we believe that's the authority that DCA is relying upon to take that position. From DCA's, and again, I'm not here to talk about the merits or non-merits of the program. I think everybody respects and understands that people who have addiction issues, they deserve to be able to get the help that they need. It's not about that. But the intent of the state's program is specifically to put these people in a residential setting because they believe, rightly or wrongly, that that gives them the best opportunity to achieve sobriety, to deal with their issues, is to put them together in a residential setting where the goal would be and the expectation would be that with the help of the entity that is operating this facility, that they will work together to support their sobriety. And if that happens, that's a wonderful thing. But it's not as simple as just saying, no, because we do not normally allow boarding houses in this residential zone, that they are prohibited from operating there. The law is not entirely clear on that point, but it certainly seems that the position the DCA is taking is contrary to that. Now, if a license is approved, as I said, right now there's no violation. They own the house, there's no tenants living there, they've applied to the state. If they get approved, we will have to look and see what our legal rights and obligations are. We'll look at that very carefully. But right now, as I said, the biggest issue is to put your concerns on the record, specific to, as I said, the operation of the facility, right? We have not, when we've talked to the state, taken a position one way or the other on a CSLR in general. What our concern and our position has been is, can these individuals who have already been proven to have operated irresponsibly be trusted to operate responsibly now? What has changed since before? And we've raised that question to the DCA, and it's the DCA that will have to answer that question.
I agree. I think we should all do our due diligence, not just the community, but you guys also, and if we all work together to make sure that that happens. Only because deceitfully coming in, a safe, like I said before, I can't reiterate it enough, a safe house is only as safe and secure as the people running it.
I think we would all agree with that.
All right, thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. How you doing, Mayor Boston, City Council members? I'm Dr. Carrion, I'm 185 Davis Avenue, Hackensack, of course. I'm also here with the issue of Willow. You did a great job of answering many of the questions that I was going to ask. However, I still have a couple. In reference to the CSLRs, do we know how many are in Hackensack right now?
This is the first notification I'm aware of an application. I mean, I would trust that the process, if it was followed the same way, we would be getting some communication from the DCR.
In one,
But I'm not familiar whether or not.
one in Hackensack Street, a block away from me. Right.
So we have more than one.
Yes,
It's a
I have
different
another
type.
one, and
It's a different type, but it's still
Hackensack
considered
is
CSLR.
mental health.
Yeah, CSLR is a very specific, so there are different group homes for various conditions. The CSLR is a very specific regulatory type of home. So I have not received, since I've been here, I think I would have been put on notice of the CSLR. It is not.
I think it might be a loophole
For the
And those are allowed to operate in residential neighborhoods. There's a specific law on point that says that. Whether that law covers CSLRs is a bit unclear right now, to be frank. But it appears DCA believes that the law covers them similar to those type of homes. But I'm not gonna tell you, in my view, it's crystal clear.
Is there a way of finding these things out?
Go to court and have a judge make a decision.
Yeah, we'd have to, that's why.
To know how many there are?
No, not how many there are, but whether or not a CSLR
Oh, you wanna know how
is
many there
permitted to
are?
work.
Yeah, I wanna know how many there are, because
Okay.
basically if they wanna come to Hackensack, and I understand the premise of the whole program. My contention is that, okay, we will have them obviously in Hackensack, but are they also going to other neighboring towns?
Yes.
Or is it just they're coming down on Hackensack because we're the city?
Well, I can tell you, in my looking into this, I mean, you know, I've done some Google searches and found other concerns about other CSLRs in other municipalities. There has been some litigation involving them, though not exactly the circumstance that we're presented with here. You know, Mr. Raywood from the DCA, who has been, you know, quite responsive, once we, you know, became aware of this application to this situation, you know, has said, look, I've had these conversations and these concerns have been raised in, you know, in many towns, though I think the circumstances we're faced with are a little bit different because, as I said, this entity was found to be operating without a license. But look, people have come in other communities when these things have been proposed, raised many of the concerns that you may have in the back of your minds, and they've been addressed however they've been addressed. It'd be my intention, quite frankly, to tell Mr. Raywood that, you know, we have dozens of people here tonight expressing their concerns. He has previously suggested that he would be prepared, or a representative from DCA would be prepared to talk about this. I may suggest we ask him to come in, or someone from his department to come in and, explain their thought process in all of this. So these are not unique to Hackensack. They have been around for a couple of years. There have been applications, and these homes do exist in other municipalities. So we'll just have to see. So, I'm not sure why this location, why this particular home, how this was selected. I guess that would be up to the applicants, why they did that. They have the right, like anybody else, to, if they're operating within the law, to apply for a license and have it heard and addressed. And you all have the right to raise your concerns about it.
Thank you very much.
Next person from the public. Just need your name for the clerk.
Hi, my name is Claudine Mellish. I live at 18 East Camden Street, the current. I am not a New Jersey resident by birth, or even, I feel like I didn't want to claim it. I moved here 2 years ago to give my son a better life, and I'm 53 years old. I lived 51 years without blatant racism until I moved to this town. Mr. Caruso, this is for you. Since my son has been going to camp at the rec center, and the rec center has been, it was great last year when he went to Fashini Park. This year, there's been nothing but trouble. I have proof of the food that they feed the children. And last week Monday, I was detained at the rec center for over an hour by 3 police officers and Jacqueline Hashmat, because I asked Courtney Vardy why did she feel it was appropriate to disrespect me when I spoke to her on April 1st at 11:26 a.m. for 10 minutes and 10 minutes and 12 seconds. And she told me that since my child is such a picky eater, I should have been bringing him lunch every day. My son did not eat lunch not one day in camp. Every day I spent at least $15 at 3:30 to feed him, because I work from home. I'm a tax-paying citizen that moved here thinking I was getting a better life. But I want to know, how is it that Courtney was able to call Jacqueline Hashmat, who left her post here at City Hall with 3 police officers, to detain me, a parent, who asked, why did Courtney feel it was appropriate? I have 53 minutes worth of audio, and if you pull the rec center footage, you will see I was detained by 3 police officers for asking a question. And Courtney looked down her nose at me when I told her that this was nepotism, and she said no, and I know she inherited her position from her father. Yes, I've learned a lot in my short tenure here. And she told me I've eaten bologna before. And here are pictures. This is their lunch last week Wednesday, which you can see. You wouldn't eat it. You wouldn't feed it to a dog. This is their lunch last week Tuesday. 3 pieces of mystery meat with no mayonnaise, no cheese. The bread was wet. I can show you video of me being able to leave fingerprints in my son's food. He refused to eat it. And to be detained by the police and being late for my job, I'm a single parent paying over $3,300 of rent a month by myself. And I do it diligently and effortlessly. And I come here, I'm kind to everyone in this community. I've never raised my voice. If you listen to the audio, you will see that all I asked Courtney was, did she feel it was appropriate to disrespect me by saying that? And within 10 minutes of her walking out the office, I said, I don't care who she calls, and Jacqueline Hashmat came, looked down her nose at me, and told me this wasn't nepotism. And I was detained by the police. So I just want to ask, how is this possible that this can happen to me as a parent? And it only happened to me, and I'm going to say it point blank, because of the color of my skin. What happened is that she saw my appearance. I had on a t-shirt and shorts and jeans and sneakers. I was coming from work. I work from home. I'm an associate director at a Fortune 100 bank, and I deal with corporate lending. So I came here late today because I had to fund a $150 million borrowing for one of my customers. And what happened was, Jacqueline saw me, based my appearance, and she decided to disrespect me. And I do not feel that was appropriate.
Way
I'm,
past your-
I'm so sorry, but I just wanted myself to be heard.
If you wish, there will be another public session at the 8 o'clock.
Oh, I'll be at every session, because I'm not gonna let this one go, because you know what, I didn't move
Okay,
here.
that's
Okay,
all.
okay, no problem.
Can I say something?
You have 3 minutes to say
1
something.
minute? Okay.
3 minutes.
I'm actually the
But you
lifeguard.
need to identify yourself.
I'm Lauren Weinberg.
Okay.
I work at the Current, and I have known Claudine for a very short time, but I spend a lot of time with her son. And I bring extra food every day, just so I know he's eating, some of the other kids are eating, because he's starving. And for a lifeguard to see that barely even knows them at first, it's sad. And he's come up to me and he's brought up the George Floyd stuff, the Breonna Taylor, to a white woman. And it's scary for him, it's scary for other children, and I think it's a little unfair. And I may not have like any pull or say, but it's unfair for these kids to be scared and to watch their parents be detained for nothing. Because they're being taught how to not react to cops, how to be afraid of the cops, and that's also dangerous for kids, officers, and people. So, I mean, that's my little spiel. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person from the public, please.
Alright, how are you?
Good.
My name is John Pierre Massetti. I've been living in Hackensack since 1960. I was born in Hackensack. I bought a house next to, I'm here for 125 level also. I got a house like two doors down. And I'm kind of surprised that I found out through the grapevine. I sent a letter to Bridget. Bridget forwarded my letter to the state. I never got the state's response.
I'd be interested, I haven't seen the state's response, so I'd be very curious to
Just
see.
read my letter when you feel like it.
I mean, I've seen all the letters that have gone out, but I'm curious how the state's
Oh,
responded.
yeah, well, this is a response from the state.
Allison, do you make a copy of that?
Huh?
Yeah, just for my records, I would love to have a copy of that.
Oh, sure, no problem. Anyway, like I said, I was raised in Hackensack. I bought this house in 1989. I lived there for 33 years. And to find out that this was through the grapevine, that they're moving. At first, it was a drug rehabilitation center. So this letter pretty explains it. It's a sober house. These people are going to be detoxed already. But still, I guess you guys know, you painted all the yellow lines in Hackensack like 6 months ago. There's no parking on that block. I mean, this house has no parking. They have no driveway. I don't know where these people are gonna park, because there's supposed to be 10 people living there. I've seen up to 5, 6 cars there parked on, especially, I don't know if you guys know, they have like 18 passenger van that they park on Willow Street. So if you're trying to make a left turn or a right turn, it's pretty difficult.
We
All that
have
said-
some, they parked overnight illegally, and we have issued them summonses. And if they do continue to park overnight, they will continue to be issued summonses.
Well, I had mentioned that in my letter, and they had mentioned that you should, that's like, well, Hackensack's gotta take care of that on their own, so. Well, also what it says is that it's pretty much, you guys really can't do anything. There's nothing you guys can do. If you read the bottom of this thing, it's like, they say, we're changing the character of use and not the change in use. Therefore, there is no requirement for the owner to provide a new CEO from Hackensack. So it's kind of like, so I came here to find out, what can you guys do? I'm not gonna hire a lawyer. I don't wanna pay some lawyer $10,000, I'll sell my house and just move out.
We're looking into a lot of different things. Steve is obviously has touched on some of it tonight. It's a matter of, the council needs to be very careful on how they approach this, because we certainly can't take a negative approach towards helping people, because that's gonna backfire.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I feel sorry for these people too. It's a sober house, you wanna help them, right? But the people who are operating this, they're making like a lot of money.
It's not about what's being done here, it's about how it's being done.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not doing it for free. They're making money. So, we can say, okay, we wanna help these people, but they're not doing it, I think they're doing it for the money. Because I've heard, I looked at a little.
There's some money being made.
Oh, yeah, that house will be paid off in like a year and a half.
This is not, it's not a charity.
No, exactly. So I don't, and that's why people come here and think they ought to, he's against, helping people. But not,
They're making money.
our neighborhood, I'm sorry, we're like the last part of Hackensack that's still residential, really. We are. We got this little corner between River Edge, Paramus, and Maywood. That's it. I was kind of hoping, and they kind of deceived us, because they applied for license before they settled So that's what I'm saying. I mean, we thought there was gonna be
They openly
a
lied
young
to the
couple
zoning
moving in
officer.
with new kids and,
Yep. Openly lied to the zoning officer
Yeah.
at what they were doing there, and then expect to move forward doing the same thing, so that's a problem.
yeah.
It's problematic. And it's problematic for the DCA because should something go awry, if this were to go through, it's gonna be on them.
Yeah. I mean, thank God all my kids are grown, but I'm thinking about, I don't know, the young families. Yeah, young families. Yeah, you know, the pot, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
She's gonna make a copy.
Oh, she will? Okay. Yeah, I know you.
Man, how are you?
Sort of,
Hi,
through email.
I'm Margaret Whitehead, and I've lived in Hackensack for 68 years. Came here when I was 2, and I'm 71 now. And I've lived in my house practically my whole life, except for 10 years. So when I found out about this, I was like a little shocked. And from what you said, there was something I didn't understand. The people who are trying to come back are the original people from New York? Or is this another group from New Jersey trying to take over this property?
My understanding is that some people there was 3 people who bought the property and are the ones who are applying for this license.
Okay, because,
They may have some connection, my understanding is they may have some connection to the addiction help community, that they may have some experience in this area, perhaps in New York, but I'm not entirely certain.
because if you
of
guys
the
all
background.
came down and saw this house, it's only a 3-bedroom house. So you think the group mother or the group person has to have a bedroom. The basement is finished where they had beds and I think little things to keep their clothes. And I think it was women that were there. And they had 9 people there. That's kind of crowded situation. It's not a huge upstairs, it's a small little house. So we're talking about a lot of people jammed in. Now, I know that, we all get frustrated, upset with one another, and I know when I get upset, I go talk to my friends and we talk it out and what. But, I was thinking, what if you get really upset and you want to go get a fix? Because that's your old habit, way of doing things. Well,
Possibility.
today, things are fentanyl, and they talk about it enough. I don't do drugs, so I don't know how to get them, don't know nothing about it. But what if you dropped a little bit of that powder and a child touched it? They could die, from what I hear. I'm just saying, that's what I've heard. Now, I'm hoping these people are gonna be the best people on earth, and if you decide to go with this, I hope to God it works out. But I'm saying there's dangers with this, because these people we don't know. Are they all gonna fly kites and be perfect? I hope so, and I pray to God for that. But if one slips up and makes a mistake, and you need money, where are you gonna go? You're not gonna go up to ShopRite and try to rob it. You're gonna go in the neighborhood, and this is a lot of elderly people or people with young families, with little kids. Now, my personal house, I got a dog who'd rip your arm off and beat you with it. That's the truth. But most people don't have that. So I'm just saying, please think about what you do before you do it.
Well, again, I want to reiterate.
I know you don't make a 100% decision, but I'm just saying.
It's not even a 100% decision, there are some, certainly some legal issues that continue to be looked at. But, you see this letter, this letter is saying specifically that the intention of these were to put these into existing residential 1 and 2 family neighborhoods. That's the state, those are your elected officials. You have legislators in Trenton that you can speak to. You've got the governor, that you can speak to. You certainly can, you can
That's
certainly.
what I would like to know.
Yeah, you can call it. If you've got your concerns, you have every right, Mr. Raywood, like you said, has been receptive, but Mr. Raywood is, he's works for an agency. He's not, he may decide about licensure or not, but he does not decide large-scale policy issues. It's the state government in Trenton that does that. Now, with respect to the spacing, we do believe that, you know, we would have the right to, you know, just because it's a one-family zone doesn't mean that they could pack 15 people into a basement when that's not legal. They would have to have a lawful sleeping area, you know, would have to be in compliance with anything else in that neighborhood, and that's something that, you know, depending on what they're approved for, is something that we may look at and consider.
Yeah.
So you have to have means of egress, you know, there's various requirements in terms of approvals, even in a one family. Otherwise, you could have, you know, you could pack 20 people into a
Well,
one
yeah,
family.
I know
There are rules that we will look
So
at.
that's what I'm worried about, is too many people and people getting on one another's nerves.
Basement bedrooms are illegal in Hackensack, you're still here, right? That's correct? Mr. Burgos?
Yes, sir.
Basement bedrooms still illegal, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Well, then the basement would be no good, a finished
Basement would be
basement.
out. So you
Okay, because then it's just 3 bedrooms, so, I mean, if they find that
So
out, they may
that's an
not be
ordinance, that's
interested
something
in it.
that can be enforced, because it's a safety.
Okay,
issue.
well.
Yeah, so the
that's
number,
something
whether
we
it's
should know.
licensed or not, but the number of people, that's something we're
This is
aware.
just a little Cape Cod, this is not a huge house.
Yeah, this is something that we are, you know, we are looking at as part of responsible operation.
Okay,
If they
thank
do
you
operate.
very much.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Reverend Carolyn Davis, Hackensack, New Jersey. I don't know what that's about, sounds very interesting, I support you. But I have right now, I wanna make sure that you understand, if you're gonna give some people more than 3 minutes, then you have to give everybody more than 3 minutes. I've been here a long time.
When
It
we're
was
having a
75
discussion,
years.
that stops their time, so you understand that we're answering
Yeah,
questions.
the lady was trying to have discussion and you told her to come back at a later time. I just wanna let you know the difference. You do it for everybody. My concern tonight is, number one, the signs that went up on Stanley corner of Railroad and Central Avenue, I appreciate it. We will not know until school starts whether those lights really work. I think they are so far. Thank you, Mr. Caruso, for that. I just have a question right now. I'd like to know how our National Night Out is, who's responsible, how that's done. It's a great idea, it's all over. I've talked to administration in a neighboring town. I don't know what town's different budgets are, but I found it sad that Hackensack, which is the county seat, a neighboring town, not only had food donated, they had food from No District Columbia, they had hot dogs, they had hamburgers, they had trays and trays of food for people, enough to feed over 300 people. It was absolutely free. They had, and I spoke to the city clerk in one of those towns. They had a bouncy house. They managed with insurance. I know you're concerned about legalities, but they managed. There's a certain type of insurance they got, which they were able to have it. I just found it sad for the county seat that other towns are doing better than us. I just think we can do better. Thank you.
We had a great turnout of close to 800 people with that. We did have rides for the kids, things for the kids with a dunk tank with police officers in it. We did have hot dogs. We didn't have No District Columbia didn't donate food to us. We can look into that. We also looked at possibly moving forward with having some food trucks there on Washington Place. But we had a wonderful National Night Out. Plus, we had one of the top bands in the state of New Jersey playing there in the Inferno. So I think we did a pretty good job. Thank you. Next, please.
Hot dogs free?
I'm not even sure. You know.
No.
I think they were $1.
Yes.
I,
Yes,
I have a concern, the same concern that they have on Willow, is that I live on the other side of town on Parker Avenue near the bottom of the hill. And just concerned that something like that might be developing on my block. And I'd like to know, what is the rule for people doing residential, in a residential neighborhood, sleeping in a basement? As I understood, when I moved into my house, that if you didn't have a separate exit to the outside, that was a fire hazard, and you couldn't sleep in the basement, even if it was your own family. So is that still true?
I believe so. We have one of our fire officers here tonight.
So if then the person is going to fill the basement with people, wouldn't that be like a risk of everybody burning to death in a fire?
That's what we were just getting at, and that is me saying that's something the city can step in and
Yeah.
enforce,
Okay.
because it's a safety issue. There's
Well,
certain
well,
things.
let me be clear, let me be clear, there's zoning issues and there's safety issues. So the zoning issue, right, is if our zoning code says you need to have a certain amount of square footage for, for a resident, then that could apply. But the safety issues, all that stuff, the construction department is going to be completely out of this, right? If there's an issue, DCA, which oversees our construction office, they are the ones who will send down and deal with an inspector regarding issues of those sort of safety questions. I'm not sure certainly about fire, but certainly for construction code issues, like if they need work or they have something.
And I was talking strictly about fire, because when I moved into my house, the people had installed a basement door because they were going to put bedrooms in the basement for their kids.
I'm not
And
even
they were
sure
told they
that's
had to
legal.
do that.
I'm not even sure that's legal in zoning in Hackensack. I'm sure it's done. I'm saying it's not done, but I don't know.
And the window, they had to lower the window so that people could get out. I just think it sounds like a very dangerous fire issue.
I mean, at this point, is my understanding is that it is referred, pretty much most of that stuff's gonna be referred to the DCA that involves a code or a subcode violation. And the
But you
state's
can
gonna
tell
be.
on a drive-by if there's a basement next.
Next person, please.
Hello, how are you? My name is Michael and I live in front of that house actually in 125 Willow. Originally I'm from New York City, Brooklyn, and we moved out of Brooklyn because they were selling drugs in front of my house in Brooklyn. So 3 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the morning once in a while, I see those women when they used to go there from New York City. And there were guys picking them up actually in those hours. So just to think that if they're gonna have 10 women in there, and so they're supposed to be in rehab, how does they know, how people know that they're gonna go and get their drugs from the guys that are coming to pick them up at those hours?
I can't answer that because you don't know. I just can't
Well,
answer that question.
I've been through that because I'm from Brooklyn.
I believe that, but there's no easy direct answer.
And actually, I've been to the house because I met the owner of the house, her name was Emma. She passed away. So I know that the house only has 3 rooms. How are they gonna put 10 people in there?
That's some of the things we're finding and discussing tonight, because we had no idea, I had no idea.
So if they allow, I'm sorry,
The law, I don't know, ultimately, the license may not approve, right? So eventually, if there is a license that is granted, right, DCA is reviewing these plans, they're gonna have to put in a plan for fire, they're gonna have to put in a plan for where these people are gonna go. And DCA, the law says up to 10, it doesn't necessarily mean DCA will approve them for 10, DCA might approve them for 6. We don't know unless and until the license is granted, what exactly is going to be allowed there. So, those are issues, we're sort of a bit on hold till we see what DCA does. If DCA decides, look, these folks have not proven themselves worthy of a license based on their prior activities, then that'll be that. If they do approve the license, then we're gonna have to see what's approved and whether it's something that we want to and have a legal basis to take some action on. But the one thing, and again, I'll reiterate to you regarding your concern is, the biggest protection that the community is going to have regarding the responsible operation, if they are allowed to operate, is going to be all of you telling us, when you see something, you know what they say, when you see something, say something.
believe me, I'm gonna be calling on
We are here to, all of our contact information. Bridget has been wonderful, I'm sure she's reached out to many of you when you called with concerns, the city manager's office. That's the biggest protection that you'll have, is their knowledge that if there are problems, we will not hesitate to deal with that, or take them to the state and address them. Now that can't be, hypothetical, but it's gotta be, real problems. If people are causing disruption, if they're loud late at night, if they are, parking in a haphazard or unsafe manner, all that stuff, you're gonna have to talk to us about and let us know. and we will take it to the proper authorities and we'll see, you know, what can be done at that point.
Actually, I'm sorry. A few times, more than a few times, I used to see guys coming to pick those women up.
Well, I
at
mean, have
certain
you
hours.
put that in a letter to the DCA? If you haven't, I would recommend you do it, and I recommend you do it very quickly, like many of your neighbors have.
Do they have an address so I can do it?
Yes, they do.
Sure, a lot of your neighbors have the address. We have it here.
Also,
Yes,
Also,
he's got an email as well, I'm sure one of your fellow residents would even have his email.
also another question is that if that's a business, that means everybody could make businesses with people in their houses?
The CSLR is a unique thing that the state created. This only happened a couple of years ago. I mean, this is not like a new program. This is something that the state came up with around 2017 or 2018, and it is an exception to other types of boarding houses, and it's an exception to the requirements regarding operating businesses in a residential zone. That's the state's decision. They made those regulations to say that they believe these things should be in residential neighborhoods and 1 and 2 family homes. That's a philosophical decision that the state made. We had nothing to do with it, we have to deal with it.
So what about our taxes that we pay to the city? I mean, are they gonna lower the taxes because they're allowing that to happen?
They'll be assessed like everybody else.
We have to pay taxes also.
Also, the value of the houses are gonna go down because of that?
I mean,
And-
something, let me
And
ask
then
you,
we could sue the city
can I,
because
hold
of
on,
that?
sir, let me give you 1 minute, because we're way
Okay,
over 3
I'm
minutes.
sorry.
All right. How many people have written in this room, or here for 125 Willow, have written letters to the state? So that's less than half, right? I need everybody in this room who has a concern to speak to, I can't remember her name, first young lady to speak. Christine, to get the address and write her letter. Write to Senator Gordon Johnson. Write to Congressman Gottheimer. This is our district. That's what they're there for, all right? You're at your city council. They're dictating this rule to us, all right? They're telling you, you have to take this and you have to live with it, all right? You're the voters out there. You need to get and speak to these people. You came and talked to us as a city council. They're the ones who made this decision. So we're the ones that need to get a hold of them and let them know what you feel about this. You brought up about 20 good points I wrote down tonight, all right? Too many people sleeping in the house. Coming in and out at all hours of the night. Possible relapsing. All different things. These are things they need to hear, all right? Because my guess is the more negative comments they hear, the more swaying might happen. So you need to get your pens going, and let's get these letters out.
Yeah, but to be clear, the letters that DCA is not going to simply take a letter that says, I don't want this in my neighborhood because it's going to affect my property values. That is not what DCA is really even allowed to do. What DCA should take into account, at least as our position, is if you saw with your own eyes at 2, 3 in the morning these things happening, you need to tell them that. You need to say, when they were operating, this is what I saw. This is my concern. If they get allowed to operate again, I'm afraid they're going to fall into the same patterns that they did when they were operating. And like I said, I'm not saying anything untoward at this point. DCA's told me, they paid the fine. They admitted they were operating illegally. So I mean, that's a real concern for the city in terms of their ability to operate responsibly. But we don't have all the facts. If you have facts that we don't have, DCA needs to hear those facts, not just simply, I don't want it in my neighborhood, not in my backyard stuff. DCA is not going to be sympathetic to that position. DCA is going to be responsive to actual problems caused by this entity, not hypothetical ones, not speculative ones, but actual observations and actual violations. That's the most effective message that you can send, and it sounds like you've seen some of that.
Yeah, I'm in front of their house actually.
Yeah.
I live in 12 units.
Yeah.
We're way past 3 minutes, sir, so we're way past your
Okay,
break, so
thank you.
thank you. Next question, please.
I got it, thank you.
Hackensack.
Sonia, could you lower the microphone just a little
Oh,
bit?
yeah, sure.
Thank you.
he brought up something interesting. I actually came in late and I'm just hearing about this house, Willow Avenues, you guys said, is this DCA house? Okay, this sounds familiar. Don't we have houses like this already in the city of Hackensack?
We have, I don't
One on
think-
Passaic Street?
Although
Is there
I-
one on Passaic Street,
I know
a gate
about one
right
on
house?
Herman.
Okay,
One in Spring
But
Valley
it's
Avenue.
a different, it's not a rehab house, it's a little bit different.
oh, okay.
More for behavioral health issues, people with.
So they haven't acquired it, or they're going to acquire this house?
They bought the house, they're waiting,
Okay.
they're applying for a license.
Okay, so if the license is approved, I believe you said that, if they're in violation, they would be given, violation notices or whatever? Could you repeat what you had said?
Okay, well, so it depends on the violation. There are certain things that we will be able to enforce. There will be certain things that we will be able to still enforce, like, the parking on the street, right? That, whether it's a one-family home, you can't park a commercial vehicle in our one-family resident. Like, they'll have to figure out something else overnight, right? A commercial vehicle can drop them off, just like a bus, if someone gets dropped off and picked up, but you can't park a large commercial vehicle in the driveway. That's not allowed regardless of anything else in the town. We can enforce that. Certain other issues, noise violations, behavior violations, things that require a police response, we can do all that. Certain other issues relating to the facility itself, those are going to have to be referred to the DCA, and the DCA will have to send out their inspectors, right? If it's believed that there's 15 people and the home's licensed for 10, that's something that DCA will have to deal with, and that's why communication is so important, because we have the ability to reach out to DCA and say, hey, look, this is what the community is reporting. Now, fortunately, you've been able to get hold of the people at DCA as well. But, so it depends on what happens, and we would have to take it on a case-by-case basis, depending on what happens. As I said, if this thing gets licensed, our goal would be if they operate perfectly and we never hear from them. But if not, we will do everything in our power to make sure it is dealt with immediately and in full compliance with the law. And that's the best I can promise you.
Okay, but, so you're saying that's the best you can promise, so you're saying, let's say if they have 100 violations, how many violations is it gonna take before, they can get kicked out of there?
DCA controls the license. If my understanding from what's been represented to me by DCA is that if they're given a license and they engage in violations, that the license can be pulled. They would have the right to a hearing about all of that. There's a bureaucratic process. Just like if you get a speeding ticket, they have the right to appeal it and go through the legal process. But at the end of the day, DCA would be the one to determine that they're not operating in compliance with their license. Just like, a perfect example, we have liquor license violations, right? Sometimes you pull the liquor license, sometimes they're suspended. It will have to be based on a case-by-case basis, based upon the facts and the proof that DCA has before it. But as I said, one thing will be clear, that our position will be, we will have zero tolerance, given the history, for inappropriate activity, and we're not going to just let something go if it's been observed and it's documented and we can demonstrate that it's in violation. If that's the case, we will be the first to let DCA know it, and I'm sure all of you will as well.
Okay, I'm just a little confused about one thing. They already bought the house, so if they don't get the license, then what happens with the house?
We don't.
It's up to them.
It's their house.
They can
So
sell
they
it.
could keep applying for this license as many times as they want it?
If it's denied, I don't think they would be in a position to reapply.
They will sell it.
It's their house, it's their property, they have the right to do with it like any other taxpayer. If they don't get licensed for this, they could sell it, they could rent it out in compliance with our tenancy rules. It's up to them.
Okay. They were talking about the issue of overcrowding. They were saying that 9 or 10 people in a house would be way too much. So my question is, off of the Willow Avenue house, my question is, for these houses, these apartments that are going up, all these buildings, okay? As you know, from people that have come here before, they have said that the rent has skyrocketed. They got in, they were there for a year, when the rent renewed, it went up. There's no rent stabilization, so they can do whatever they want. As you know, people need a place to live, so they're gonna bring in other people. How are you gonna resolve that issue when it's overcrowding in these apartments? Who oversees that?
The managers of the buildings themselves, it doesn't.
No, that's not gonna work, I can tell you right now, because I have a friend that lives on Clarendon Avenue, and there was overcrowding in one of the apartments, she was next to. Management doesn't care, because they were paying, and as long as they're paying,
You may
they
be
don't
right,
care.
ma'am, in that
So
building,
who
but I
does she
don't feel
call?
that's the same in the other buildings, but you're coming down to your time of
Who
week.
does she call
Who does she call?
when there's overcrowding?
Call the zoning department.
Okay.
Next person, please. You'd be way past 10 o'clock. It's all right.
Also looking for 125 Willow. John is looking somewhere.
Could you give your clerk your name?
Sure, Steve Greco, 182 Spring Valley Avenue. So there's one point in a document reading online about the COE, so I heard John mention that they don't need a COE. Was there a COE initially when they purchased the home? Certificate of
Occupancy?
Yeah.
The CO.
CO, sorry.
Probably just a CC, right?
There's a CCO.
I mean, you know, it's just a sale of a house, you do the typical inspection, fire safety, you know, the smoke detectors and the carbon monoxide, I mean, it's not when you sell your home, it's not a huge involved process to, you know, be approved thereafter. I don't know in the file for that or not regarding a residential CO, but
Okay.
I
Is that public record?
yeah, anyone could open the property file, whatever's in there's in there.
Okay. So one document I could share with you, because I'm not a lawyer and I don't know this, right? But in reading this document, it says, a certificate of occupancy shall be required in the event of any change in occupancy or intended occupancy that will increase the number of residents from 5 or fewer to 6 or more.
Okay, what are you reading that from, sir?
It's from the state of New Jersey government website, Community Affairs.
So, it's their fault too, so.
So to John's post or email he got from them regarding no COE, they already had 10 people in the home. I would expect that if they do get approved and we don't get a certificate of occupancy and they show up with 10 people again, they're in violation of their own code of the state.
Possible.
We'd have to look, I can't speculate as to what might
Yeah,
happen.
I'm not looking for an answer, I'm just creating awareness, that's it. Right, so if they're gonna have more than 5 or 6, we should have to take a certificate of occupancy.
That's interesting.
Thank you.
Next, anybody else in the public, please? You can come forward, ma'am. Good evening.
My name is Linda, and I've been living in my apartment 20 Jefferson Street for about 3 years now. And then for 3 years, I have called every single office in Hackensack for the issue that we had. And the issue is there's a manhole in front of the building, and it's a bus route, and every time the bus hits the manhole, the building shakes. Yes, it does, and from my understanding, it's been going around the multiple offices for several years. DPW say it's not their problem, it's Verizon. Verizon said, no, it's not our manhole because our manholes are to the side. DPW manholes are in the middle of the street. And everybody in multiple offices are aware of this issue. And I mean, the building shakes. And it's 20 Jefferson Street. And I live on the top floor, and it's even worse on the top floor. And when the building shakes, sometimes I hear rumbles into the walls.
So what you're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to get somebody out there while you're there to show them which manhole it is, because we're not gonna know what manhole.
It's a manhole directly in front of the building.
It's right in front of the building.
Right in front of the building, 20 Jefferson. I was even told that when the new condo at the end of the road was paving the whole neighborhood, it would be fixed. It's not. It's still not leveled, and from the naked eye, it's not a huge gap, but it makes a huge impact. And People in the building have been living with it, and now I know why people don't stay long. There's a constant turnaround. People are constantly moving out of that building.
So
and
let's
that's
see
the
what,
reason why.
let's see who's responsible for the manhole.
It's DPW.
If it's a does it say Hackensack DPW on it?
It doesn't, but they've come out, I've seen them, they
Yeah.
look at it, we're good to go. No, I've seen Verizon fixing their manholes at there, and I confirm, is this your manhole? No, our manholes are to the side, GPWs are, always in the middle of the road.
We'll get out there, we'll take a look, see if we can gas it.
It's not a huge, it's from the naked eye, it's not a huge difference, but if you ask anybody in the building, it makes a big impact.
Okay.
And from my bedroom, I have a crack. When I first moved in, I didn't realize it was the issue. I have a crack from corner to corner in the foundation. It was a deep crack. It was covered with carpet, and when I removed the carpet to switch it on, and that's when I saw it. And even a few years back, one of the tenants told me the backside of, I 1, 2, 3, I'm in the 3rd apartment, the 4th apartment, the last apartment, the wall to the outside came tumbling down. And they had to move out and fix the wall, and it is visible in the coloring of the blocks. You can see the difference, and I can't afford to move out.
You might wanna see, the vibration meter over there from Langen or from Stephen or somebody.
And
Right.
somebody
See what's
even,
going on.
and one of the officers even told me that it passed inspection. Yes, it passed inspection.
All right, he's gonna send the guys out there, see if we can pinpoint this thing, maybe put a, vibration meter out there to see when it's happening, exactly where it's happening.
It's every single time 24/7 because the bus goes 24/7.
Okay, we're gonna look into it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. You can also, you only come up once.
It's another thing, it's helpful.
Yeah, but
It takes
So,
5 seconds.
give the
Okay.
information to the city manager then, all right?
Okay.
It's just, because then I'd have to let everybody speak.
All right.
All right? It's just the rules.
Yeah,
Sorry. Sir?
Good evening, my name is Edward Moran and I live at 38 Davis Avenue.
Sir?
This is around the block from the 125 Willow residence.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to the city attorney and his recommendations about us being vigilant and watching and reporting things that we perhaps see. I don't have a lot of trust in the owners since they've already tried to operate illegally. So I would ask, if this is approved by Trenton, that we also have your commitment to perhaps help us, maybe increase patrols, keep an eye on it, help us out, and it'll help you out.
We've already done that, particularly with
Okay.
respect to the commercial vehicle issue.
Yes.
And as I said, I am aware that summonses have been written. Look, we can't be everywhere all at once.
I know.
But yes, I mean, it is a property that, and right now, as I said, they, as far as we understand, there are no tenants in the building, they are not licensed to operate as we speak right now. So there should be nothing going on there, aside from if one of the owners is living there, or 2 of the owners, I believe there's 3 owners living there. So there shouldn't be any issues at the moment, for sure. But if they are approved, I mean, certainly, look, we're not gonna be in a position where we're going to be oppressive if they're approved, absolutely not. But we are going to be cognizant of the past and what's happened, and be very responsive, to the community concerns.
Okay.
And I think, as I said, I told them, I said it's a little bit limited, of some of the things that can be said tonight, but I think you can hear from this mayor and council that they hear you. I mean, as I said, when this came in, we reacted within minutes of receiving that letter and reaching out to the DCA and demanding an explanation. We have been on top of this as much as we possibly can be, and it is frustrating to come and tell you, hey, a land use issue within a residential neighborhood in Hackensack is not entirely within our control. That is a frustrating thing to be able to say, but again, the state is the state. The state has the right to take actions, and we just have to comply with them in good faith as best as we possibly can.
Okay.
But I just wanna let you know, I think we would appreciate working in concert together.
We're working on it, believe me. Thank you. Anyone else from the public before I close and we move forward with business? Motion to close,
All in favor? Second.
roll call?
Aye.
Aye, so I need a motion to close the executive session. She can't speak now. I just closed the public hearing. You have to wait till the end of this next session, I'm sorry.
neighbor is trying to record it on the PC.
I need a motion to close the executive session.
I live right next door to one.
Hold on. I just closed the public hearing and I can't reopen it because we're going into another meeting.
Meeting is that we're going into another meeting.
The meeting will be here, you'll be able to speak again, but it's gonna be a little while. Thank you. Alright, motion to close, council the whole, roll call?
I have a friend who retired from
Aye, okay.
One other thing, I do need to put on the record real quick, because of closed session, I forgot to do that with everything going on. But just for the record, as usual, we did have a closed executive session prior to the start of the Cal meeting at 7 o'clock. During the course of that, numerous litigation matters were discussed, including 2 workers' compensation matters, Brown and Criven, along with various litigation, including Jasmine, Luna Diaz, Cologne, and Briggs, and also Duardo. So those were the cases that we discussed in closed executive session. So just for the record, thank you.
Ready?
Yeah, I've got to step out. Brad's going to take over
Sure.
to start the meeting,
Yep.
and then I'll be back.
Fine. All right. Madam Clerk? Actually, we're gonna take a 2-minute bio break. Anybody, one of yourselves,